Welcome to Whispers, everybody, on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. It is 8:09 p.m. here in downtown Wheeling. Probably around 70 degrees. It's warming back up, Lo.
No,
Isn't that
this
warm?
music gives me chills.
Give us a call here, 304-214-1600. Toll free, 866-514-1600.
Behind you, Lola. Behind you.
I don't know about the 15th, guys. You do this to me here, what are you going to do to me there?
Yeah, on the 15th, we're taking Lola in the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville.
I put that show on because it was on several times on Halloween, and I recorded it.
Oh,
and
from Ghost Adventures?
Yes.
Those people jumped at anything. Though.
Yeah,
they were
but-
jumping. You know
There
what?
were just two of them in the whole building, and all
Three.
the lights
There were
were
three of
There
them.
were the
Yeah.
Jordan defends them because he ran in the prison.
I had all my family was here this past weekend.
Uh-huh.
So I put it on and I said, this is where I am going with my two best friends that won't do anything mean and hateful to me. And they're all going, you're an idiot. It was that simple. I'm an idiot.
Why we wouldn't do anything to you
I know you wouldn't.
intentionally.
And I'm telling you.
We may take you down to some of those parts and just leave you.
You know
You're
what?
not going to leave me.
Now I got to ask you this question.
What?
Now you got to be honest with me.
Okay.
All right. What do you think about bats?
Oh, why are there bats there?
No.
Oh.
No, there's no bats there, right? Jordan?
You are telling
There's no
tales.
bats.
Your noses are growing.
Ask Nick what happens when the bats started flinging at him.
Nick screams like a little girl and drops to the ground.
Nick was right in front of me, and he dropped to the ground.
Look.
It was like, I couldn't even see him. I
Oh,
was
yeah,
like, Nick, are
you had
okay?
an
He's like,
investigation
"Bats!"
last
and he was like,
week.
No, this
you
was
know
it,
what?
but this
That
was
was-
at the pen.
No, there were some guys at West Liberty that scream like girls as well. They do. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
he goes to school there. He knows that they,
Yes, they do
squeal
scream
like
like
little
crazy.
girls.
So,
Okay.
yeah. But I think you'll be fine.
I think I'll wear a hoodie,
Just-
and I'm taking 2 recorders, an EVP and just a regular one, so that I can play you guys acting like little girls.
Just make sure you dress warm.
yeah, the prison will be pretty cold where
Yeah,
you're going.
I have been told that. Let's just hope the weather stays semi-nice.
It will. You'll be fine.
Okay, all right.
Even though it might snow, who knows? The way things been going, it's going up and down all over the place. I can't believe I'm wearing short sleeve shirts. It's November.
70-something today.
Yeah, it's unreal. I can't wait for snow. Actually,
Oh, I can.
I can too.
Wait.
I love it cold. I love the fall. When it starts snowing,
If I'm
done.
home and looking at it out of my window and I have plenty of milk and cigarettes and cable, I'm a happy camper.
some cocoa and cable. That's all you need.
Right. That's right.
all right, well, you want to go ahead and bring our guest on, Jordan?
We got him ready?
Yes, we do.
Okay, tonight, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. Michael Sala. He is a pioneer in the development of exopolitics, the scholarly study of the main actors, institutions, and political processes associated with extraterrestrial life. His groundbreaking book, Exopolitics, presents the first scholarly framework for the understanding of the political implications of the extraterrestrial presence. His interest in exopolitics evolved out of the investigations of sources of international conflict and its relations with the undisclosed extraterrestrial presence. He cites evidence as many as 17 different extraterrestrial civilizations currently interacting with humanity in a variety of ways, with a number of other civilizations simply monitoring Earth. Mike, are you with us?
Thank you for having me on the show.
Hi, Dr. Michael Sala. How are you, sir?
I'm great, thank you.
So, how's the weather in Hawaii?
At the moment, it's a little muggy, but always quite warm. But still, the jubilation of Obama's victory does pervade the atmosphere here. So we are all enjoying it.
Well, good. Now, you mentioned Obama won. We're talking about exopolitics.
Well,
what do you think's going to happen there?
Well, Obama's winning really is quite a remarkable achievement. I mean, if only for the reason that he represents someone that has a great credibility with the public and someone that I think will help give a lot of legitimacy to the government as it tries to deal with the distrust that has grown over the last 8 years with trusting government and just the legacy of the Bush administration. And I think that will be very important as we move into an era where the truth about extraterrestrial life and UFOs is something that government has to publicly deal with. And I think Obama will play a critical role of that. And one of the things that might be an indicator for what lies ahead is his choice of John Podesta as his chief of the transition team that is now being put into place, because Podesta has played quite a role in trying to get the truth about UFOs released to the public and having the secrecy overturned. So those are very good signs, and so looking forward to Obama taking a proactive role on that issue.
Well, my biggest question here is, though, do you think Obama himself, or any of the presidents, Bush, Clinton before him, do you think they have, the role itself of knowing any of this information, or even being able to release it, as it stands?
Well, that's a fascinating question. Grant Cameron from UFOs and the Presidency, he contends that presidents have been briefed to varying degrees about the UFO phenomenon. Some presidents have been fully briefed, and among those he includes George Bush Sr., whereas other presidents have not been briefed at all, or very little, and amongst those he includes Presidents Carter and Clinton. And so when it comes to Obama, I think he will be partly briefed, but not nearly enough so that he could, on his own, with his advisors, go out and make any kind of statement to the American public. I think the only way in which a president could be proactive in terms of disclosing the truth about UFOs and extraterrestrial life is if those that brief him, those that have the security clearance to do so, have decided that that is something they would want him to do, and so they give him the information he needs so that he can disclose that to the public. And if they feel that that they're not ready, then they would simply deny the information to the president. And I think Obama will really be subject to that kind of advice coming from those who are in the loop about the UFOs and ET phenomenon.
Now, was Bush Sr., was he briefed because he was part of the CIA at one point, or was he briefed as vice president or president? A couple of reasons. I think, for one, he was a very close protege of Dr. Henry Kissinger, who really has been one of the key players in the way in which this whole ET phenomenon has been secretly managed through committees that have been appointed through classified presidential executive orders. And so Kissinger is one of those people involved in that. And so anyone that he approves of is going to be able to get the information. And George Bush Sr. was certainly one of those people. And, of course, then he was appointed as Director of Central Intelligence back in 1975, 76. So that's why he was in the loop as president. But merely being president is not enough to get you the security clearance, as was made clear in the case of President Jimmy Carter, who was denied access and actually was told that if he wanted to know what was going on, he had to go to the Congress to get permission, which is what he did. And at the end, he didn't get very far following that route anyway.
I got a question for you, Dr. Sala. Okay, I got an idea of what exopolitics is. I mean, we're talking about, presidents, government, and aliens. I mean, but what is the extent of exopolitics? Because I'm really, people have been asking me for the past few weeks, like, what this was about, and I'm having a hard time gripping it. I mean, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I just can't, I don't understand exactly. Can you help me?
Sure. Well, the simplest way of understanding exopolitics is to just see it as being understanding the political implications of extraterrestrial life. I mean, that's the simplest way of understanding exopolitics. I give it a more formal definition wherein exopolitics is the study of the political actors, processes, and institutions concerning extraterrestrial life. Now, exopolitics doesn't mean that one has to believe that extraterrestrials are visiting us and that the government is keeping it quiet. Exopolitics, all it requires is that one believes that that's a possibility. And if it's a possibility, then you can look at that possibility and you can say yes or no. But the exopolitics is all about studying the political implications of extraterrestrial life, whether you believe that they're actually here now visiting and it's being covered up, or whether this is something that eventually will happen as we move out further into space and exploring life on other worlds or other solar systems.
Now, my biggest question with this, when do you think exactly that, we, either as the United States or the world itself, how long do you think we've been interacting with UFOs, or aliens as they are?
Well, that's really an important question. I would say that we have been doing that since at least the 1940s. If you excuse me for a moment, I just have to change this phone. It's about to, the battery's about to go. Hang on.
Oh, I've been having trouble like that forever. My phone's been dying like crazy. I gotta go buy batteries for it.
Everybody's complaining.
You there?
Me too.
Yeah,
we're here.
We were just talking about my phone's
that.
been dying like crazy too. They're just not making the batteries like they used to.
I sure don't. So you asked the question of how long has this been going on. I think we can go at least to the 1940s with the Roswell crash, and even earlier with the Foo Fighters in over Germany during the Second World War. But I think this is a phenomenon that at the very least we start to look at seriously in terms of available evidence since the 1940s, because there is quite a lot of evidence in terms of whistleblower testimonies, photographs, physical evidence in terms of trace studies, but there is a good case to be made, I think, that this is a phenomenon that goes back thousands of years.
We were just talking about that on the show before Whispers came on, that really every significant change in the human evolution, not even evolution, but in civilization, there is something that represents that for some reason I have a hard time believing that man came up with it. One, the pyramids, and those huge graph things down on the plateaus in South America, and then you've got Stonehenges in there somewhere with the placement of the rocks being, so exact that, it just kind of points that at certain times in civilization's history, something has kind of intervened and nudged us into the next, the next era.
That's right, yes. I think there is a good case that this is something that really has helped with the development of early civilizations. I think one of the better-known cases is the Sumerians, who around 3,800 BC suddenly emerged as a fully fledged civilization with quite a lot of advances in science, medicine, astronomy, metallurgy, irrigation, and so forth. And it seemed that it was just something that appeared overnight. And looking at some of the cuneiform texts that have been translated by a number of people, including Zechariah Sitchin, who's probably the most well-known, that those texts point to the Sumerians having had been helped by the gods, or the Anunnaki as they call them, which today we would see that as being extraterrestrials, because they came from a planet that came into the Earth's orbit every 3,600 years. And there are other cases as well in the Americas, like the Incas, the Aztecs, and so forth, who also referred to gods having helped the establishment of their civilization.
Now, what you're saying about the Sumerians, reading your book, my favorite chapters were the ones near the end, talking about how the War on Terror, making a case that there's an exopolitical implications for why we're there, which has to do with something called Stargate technology. Can you kind of explain? I mean, I've seen the movie and the TV show; they're great. Is that kind of how this would work when you say Stargate technology, being able to walk through and be on another planet?
That's right, yes. I don't think that Stargate series and the movie itself were entirely kind of fictional. I think that there was some preparation there for the public in terms of whether or not they would eventually disclose that such technology exists. I mean, when one looked at the Sumerian texts, it described a variety of advanced transportation technologies. One is rocket technology, which we know about, as in Apollo and NASA and so forth. But the other was a kind of dimensional doorway, which today we would call a stargate or a wormhole. Transversible wormhole would be the kind of scientific name for it. And that was something that is found in these Sumerian cuneiform texts, that they talk about the gods being able to move through these dimensional doorways that they would just kind of step through. And so that is very similar to the kind of Stargate technology that is depicted in the movie and the series. And I think when we look at some of the whistleblowers who have come forward over the last decade or so, there have been a number of references to kind of these dimensional doorways. And I, for example, have spoken with some whistleblowers. In particular, one, Duncan O'Finian, talked about his experiences where he claims that he was recruited at a very young age to be involved in these classified projects, and one of those involved Stargate travel, where he was trained to be able to go through these stargates. And I think there's, in terms of being able to utilize these interdimensional doorways, it requires a certain degree of consciousness, and apparently children are able to do it much better than adults. And that's why he claims he was recruited into that. And there are others who have said similar things, but that's certainly, I think the Stargate technology is a very real explanation for, or a viable explanation for why the U.S. went into Iraq in 2003.
Now, are you saying, like, Iraq has this technology, or we have this? Like, I'm thinking, why would that interfere so much that we'd want to go into an Iraq war?
Well, I think if you consider that this Stargate technology was very real, and it was something that extraterrestrials used many thousands of years ago, and the Sumerians wrote extensive descriptions of their society, of the gods, then I think you can conclude that amongst the Sumerian cuneiform texts, there were hundreds of thousands of these that are still to be uncovered. And so that meant that there was a lot of information there, quite aside from the fact that there may still be one or more stargates themselves. I'm talking about the technology itself. So in a sense, it's almost like when you're talking about stargates, you've got the hardware, which is the stargate itself, or the interdimensional doorway, and then you've got the software, which is the records of how you use this thing. And I think that Iraq had, at the very least, the information on how to use the Stargate, and very possibly had one or more Stargates themselves that could be used.
And are you saying, though, that the Iraqis themselves, Saddam Hussein or whoever, is aware of this, or that it's there, and we just kind of almost like an archaeological search, we would need to go and find this, and that's why we went in, was to oust Hussein, to have to be able to then go into places where we believe that this could be? Exactly.
I think Saddam Hussein knew about this. I think Saddam Hussein worked closely with the Chinese, the Yugoslavs, and the Russians, and also the Germans, and he was actively trying to locate these technologies, and he was sponsoring archaeological expeditions throughout southern Iraq and in the areas that where you found these ancient Sumerian cities, and right up until the 2003, he was sponsoring German archaeological teams to go into the south of Iraq to do these excavations, and and he had built an extensive tunnel system, and I think he probably, in the building of these tunnel systems, with the help of the Yugoslavs and the Chinese, may have stumbled onto some of this technology. And I think Saddam Hussein, one has to remember that this was even though he was a tyrant, Mesopotamian tyrant, he was also a very clever man, and he had decided that strategically that building weapons of mass destruction in the form of nuclear weapons, chemical and biological weapons, were no defense against the United States. And so that's why he abandoned those that kind of weapons technology development. And that's why, of course, when the U.S. went in, they found nothing, because I don't think he was developing that. I think he was channeling all of his resources into this kind of quest to find the technology of the gods. And I think that what he was really preparing was to not to create a weapon of mass destruction, but to produce a cultural weapon, like a weapon of mass information, which would be that the gods were extraterrestrials, and that Iraq was a repository of extraterrestrial technology and knowledge.
Okay, I get the Chinese, and maybe even the Germans, but why the Yugoslavs?
Well, the Yugoslavia, up until the collapse of the Yugoslav state, had the fourth largest army in Europe. It was a very sophisticated communist society, and they were very adept at being able to build tunnel systems. And I think that was something that they had decided to do as a means of their national defense. And this was something that Saddam Hussein was very dependent on, being able to develop a sophisticated underground tunnel system. During the Iraq-Iran war, when you had these missiles being thrown or being launched between Iraq and Iran throughout the 1980s, and he had various states, such as the Yugoslavs, help build a sophisticated underground tunnel system that would be impervious to this kind of aerial bombardment.
Now, I get a quick question for you. We're talking about, we have a new president, Barack Obama. He stated several times, different interviews, in speeches, that one of his goals is to withdraw us from Iraq. Now, with the information you've given us, and possibly once he takes office, or I think they said this Thursday he's going to be getting, the intelligence briefing that all, presidents would have, that he is going to, do you think he's still going to withdraw us, or once he gets this information, that, he's going to all of a sudden realize, okay, Bush, didn't go in there necessarily for weapons of mass destruction. This is important to get. What do you think he's going to do?
Well, that's a really fascinating question. I think what will happen is that he'll be briefed, and he will be given information about why it's important for the U.S. to maintain some kind of military presence in Iraq. And that may lead to him kind of fudging on his commitment to pull out all U.S. troops. It may lead to him trying to find some agreement with the Iraqi government whereby there can be bases or other ways in which the U.S. can maintain some kind of presence. It may not necessarily need to be a military presence. It might be a presence in the form of corporations or diplomatic missions or whatever would be necessary to be able to continue whatever work they've been doing in terms of finding this technology or the information concerning how to use Stargate technology. But the short answer to your question is that I think Obama may try to fudge on his commitment once he gets briefed and finds out why the U.S. really did go into Iraq.
Oh, well, Dr. Sala, we do need to take a break. If you'd stay on hold with us. Up next, we're going to be joined again with Michael Sala. We're going to talk about secret UN documents and 17 different extraterrestrial civilizations that are watching us and interacting with us now. This is AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog.
Do you want to dive into the bizarre world of the paranormal? Do ghosts, UFOs, or the supernatural amaze you to the point of wanting to learn more? Then you need BVRN, the Black Vault Radio Network. With more than 750 hours of on-demand talk radio, syndicated from more than 35 shows, the Black Vault Radio Network is your one-stop shop for the world of the unexplained. Check us out and tune in 24 hours a day www.blackvaultradio.com. Again, that's www.blackvaultradio.com.
Who's sure of herself and stands out in a crowd? Who knows what's important in life and makes that her first priority? Who knows that her community's greatest resource is the health of its people? Her name is Andrea DeShong from A Journey Within.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I believe in these stressful times we need an hour to be quiet, go within, make friends with our breath. Let our minds, soul already knows the healing journey is within. This is why I'm extending this offer to you, that when you invest in a package of 10 one-hour massages, my gift to you is 2 free.
What the world takes out of you, let Andrea put back in. A Journey Within. 304-547-4003.
Attention kids of all ages from 1 to 101. Want to see Darth Vader and R2-D2? What about Spider-Man? Or how about a pirate that's traveled the 7 seas, or a NASA-trained and certified astronaut? Kobe Bryant and Dirk Nowitzki are there too. And where can you see all this and more? At the Toy and Plastic Brick Museum on Noble Street in the all-American town of Blair, Ohio. Dan Brown and the folks at the Toy and Plastic Brick Museum are now listed in the Guinness Book of World Records, last year for the largest Lego image ever, and this year for the world's largest castle made entirely of Lego building blocks. Located at 4597 Noble Street in Blair, Ohio, in the old Gravel Hill School, the museum is open Wednesday through Sunday from 12 to 5 p.m. and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And there's entertainment daily. A band made entirely of Lego blocks, the Lego 3, perform for everyone. School groups and kids clubs want to take a road trip? Give them a call at 740-671-8890 for group rates. So, for 36,000 square feet of Lego fun, head over to the all-American town of Blair, Ohio, and visit the Toy and Plastic Brick Museum at 4597 Noble Street. Oh, and while you're there, don't forget the new space room's open now, too.
Copyrighted images created under license by Lego Group.
Over recent years, the traditional office has become more of a touchpad than a daily destination. Long gone is the reliance on a landline to work away from the office. More people are performing work from home or other locations thanks to technologies like GoToMyPC that let you take your office wherever you go. With GoToMyPC, you have freedom from the office, enhanced work-life balance, and increased work flexibility. When choosing a remote access service, you need to make sure it's easy to set up, easy to use, and affordable. That's why you need GoToMyPC. And you can try it free for 30 days. For this special offer, go to mypc.com/techpodcasts. That's gotomypc.com/techpodcast. Take your office with you wherever you go with GoToMyPC. Welcome back to Whispers, everybody, on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. If you got a question for Dr. Michael Sala, please give us a call, 304-214-1600. If you're out of the area, call us toll-free, 866-514-1600. We're back with Michael Sala, and he's talking to us about exopolitics.
I have a question from a gentleman in England, UFOs Among Us, what he goes by. He says, I have heard some of his interviews regarding the Serpo story and the meeting Eisenhower is alleged to have had with extraterrestrials shortly after the Roswell incident. I'd like to hear his views on whether he thinks that other governments, such as Russia and England, could have been visited and offered similar deals by these extraterrestrials. Can you explain first what the Serpo story is and what kind of deals before you answer the rest of it?
Sure. Well, the Serpo story was something that emerged from a number of whistleblowers coming from the Defense Intelligence Agency who were anonymous, arguing that there had been a cultural exchange program agreed to between extraterrestrials and the secret government that was put in charge of the extraterrestrial-related projects, and that a number of people had gone to a planet Serpo in the Zeta Reticulum star system, and that they had gone there and then come back and gave extensive reports on what had transpired. That was not something that I was directly involved in, even though I did kind of comment about that anonymous information. It was always a difficult story to confirm because the primary people behind it were anonymous and they just didn't disclose who they were. A related story is one that I have worked up quite a bit on, which is the alleged Eisenhower extraterrestrial meeting on 1954. And there is quite a bit of information from a variety of sources that, in fact, President Eisenhower did go to Edwards Air Force Base on the evening of February 20 and did have a direct face-to-face meeting with a number of extraterrestrials who discussed with him the nuclear program that the U.S. was at the time embarking on in terms of testing hydrogen bombs. And in fact, 9 days after that first meeting, the largest ever hydrogen bomb test of the U.S. was conducted. That was the Bravo test of 15 megatons. So that is a case that I actually have done quite a bit of research on, and I think we can be reasonably confident that in fact President Eisenhower did have direct face-to-face meetings with extraterrestrials, and out of those meetings, some agreements were eventually reached with a variety of extraterrestrial groups.
Yeah, well, we have a caller, if you don't mind.
Hi, this is Treya. You're on the air, Treya.
Hi, Treya.
Hi. I have a question regarding the Pleiades. I have known about that since I was about 4 or 5. I feel very, very close affinity to it. Can he give me some information on the Pleiades?
Yes, I'm happy to talk about the Pleiades. The Pleiades is one of those star systems that is claimed to be the origin of some of the extraterrestrials that are visiting the Earth. Probably the most famous contactee, the first actual contactee who claims that he met with extraterrestrials from the Pleiades star system is Billy Meier. And of course, with Billy Meier, he first went public in 1975, released a lot of photos, helping confirm what he was claiming. He released a lot of the transcripts of the conversations he says he had with the Pleiadians, and they gave him a lot of information about the Earth's history, about different extraterrestrial groups visiting Earth, about the dangers confronting the Earth at this point in our history, and they wanted to help humanity prepare for the dangers that lay ahead in terms of us meeting the challenges posed by different extraterrestrial groups visiting us and the development of advanced technologies. And so the Pleiadians themselves appear to be a very helpful, spiritual group of extraterrestrials who looked very much like us. They were one of those human-looking groups of extraterrestrials.
Now, is there any, of course, you're saying the Pleiadians are friendly. Are there any that are not so friendly that might be visiting the Earth?
Well, there have been those that have argued that some Pleiadians have an agenda. One of the contactees, that is people who claim to have had direct face-to-face contact with extraterrestrials, is Alex Collier, and he claims that the beings that he has had direct contact with have told him to be very careful of some of the Pleiadians, that not all of the Pleiadians are trustworthy. And so I think the point here is that we can't assume that just because extraterrestrials look like us and have a very positive, ethical, spiritual outlook on life, that they're necessarily here to help us, that there may be an agenda there. And so essentially we have to be very discerning and we have to be alert to the various possibilities that even though some extraterrestrials are clearly friendly and here to help us, that we shouldn't assume that all extraterrestrials are the same.
Treya, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
You said that you feel a real affinity toward them.
Right.
Why is that?
Since I was a little girl, I've been starstruck, so to speak, and I always would focus on this particular portion of the sky in the fall and winter. And as soon as I could get advanced enough in science to ask somebody, what's that, they said that's the Pleiades system. And now, even now, when I go outside right now, that'll be the first thing I look at, the Pleiades. It just resonates with me. And my background is Native American, Indian, which I've been doing a lot of studying about that, and there is a Pleiadian connection with the Native Americans, I believe.
Oh, that's interesting.
Could he comment on that? And
Michael, do you have anything to say on that? Do you know any connection with that?
I'm sorry, no, I don't think I can comment on that. I haven't had any direct experiences myself, and those that have had those kinds of experiences, the contactees like Maya and Collier, I mean, they have had a variety of experiences that I suggest Treya goes to read about their accounts.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Treya.
Thank you, Treya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, I've been talking to people on Open Minds Forum, and one of the questions they wanted me to ask you. Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Talking about a UN secret meeting, and I've been kind of looking at it a little bit. A lot of stuff to go over from what I've seen there. This UN secret meeting that you have you're heavily involved with something called somebody called Source A. Can you kind of fill us in a little bit on that?
Unsecretize it?
Yeah. Sure. Well, back in February of this year, Source A, who is actually a serving U.S. Navy officer, came forward to tell two people two researchers, who then passed on the information to me about these meetings that had begun at the UN to discuss the increase in UFO sightings around the world. And as a result of those discussions, there were further meetings to try to coordinate international policy concerning UFOs and the eventual disclosure of extraterrestrial life. And essentially what Source A was saying was that governments are starting to try to get information out to their general publics to educate them about the reality of UFOs and the extraterrestrial phenomenon as something that was real and had to be directly engaged with. And so what Source A was saying was that there was a policy process that was in place to really educate people quickly so that by a certain time, and he's given a number of dates for this, people could be told the truth about extraterrestrial life.
Okay, now I know United Kingdom just released their information. If I remember correctly, Brazil also has done that. Is there any other governments around the world that have been releasing, that information to their public?
France has been very active in releasing UFO files. The French have probably released more than anyone else in terms of an extensive database of sightings, cases involving UFOs, even extraterrestrial encounters on their website, and they've released this. They began doing this last year, and they have put everything up. Other countries, such as Britain, have decided to do this in a staged manner. So Britain began to release its UFO files in a staged process, so that its national archives isn't overwhelmed with the international public visiting their websites all at the same time, that it's a much more gradual process. Countries such as Brazil and Mexico have also released to the public or to UFO researchers files concerning UFOs. So there definitely is a trend to have country militaries and national scientific organizations release files concerning UFOs to the general public.
Now, there was somebody was talking about that your source A, had released the document that cast doubt on his credibility. Would you want to comment on that at all?
Sure. Well, one of the things that has been asked about Source A, because he has chosen to remain anonymous, is that well, how credible is he if he doesn't release his name and his background and credentials and so forth? Why should we believe him? And so one of the things that was thought would help build up his credibility would be the release of a document that he claimed that he photocopied in the 1984, concerning a special operations manual that was written for retrieval operations concerning downed extraterrestrial vehicles. Now, that particular manual was actually released in 1994, or another version of it in 1994. And so Source A felt that he had a document that predated the one that was released in 1994 that he had photocopied. So it was decided by Clay and Sean Pickering, who have been the direct conduits or contacts with Source A, to release the version of Special Operations Manual that Source A had. And as it turned out, that the release was not an original, was not something that predated the 1994 version, but was what was essentially a copy of it. And so then there was some controversy over Source A claiming that what he had released was not, in fact, what he had originally had in his possession, that someone had switched it on him, and he referred to a mysterious agency called the Men in Black. But anyway, I mean, what that essentially did was it did cast a certain degree of controversy over Source A and just how reliable he is.
Now, has he said anything at all about whether we're going to be disclosing our own files in the U.S. or anything like that to you?
He has basically indicated that the U.S. Navy is in support of disclosure, that the Navy is wanting to get this information out there, that it is playing a leading role in leaking information, which is why this UN initiative is so important, because I and many others feel that there is a certain degree of truth in what Source A is doing, that in fact the Navy does have a direct interest in leaking this information because the Navy is concerned over the way in which the extraterrestrial information is being managed and the way in which that information has been gradually taken away from the control or oversight of U.S. military forces and into the control and oversight of transnational corporations, which really are unaccountable. And so I think that the Navy is playing a very positive role here, without necessarily accepting everything Source A is saying as truth. I mean, we need to be very discerning, but I still think that they are playing a positive role, and we should take it very seriously that the U.S. Navy is playing a controlled leaking role here.
One more thing before we have to wrap up. One thing you claim is that there are 17 different extraterrestrial civilizations among us now. Can you touch on that just for a minute?
Sure. One of the things I have done in my research is try to gather a database of the most reliable testimonies concerning extraterrestrial contact, or people, whistleblowers, contactees, and so forth, who claim to have had some direct experience with extraterrestrials or come across government documents detailing interactions with extraterrestrial life. So out of that, I was able to build a composite of the 17 most significant extraterrestrial races. And so they include some races such as the Pleiadians, which I mentioned, the Greys, or those from Zeta Reticulum, which I also mentioned. Then there are reptilian-looking races. There are other human-looking races from other parts of the galaxy, such as Lyra, Andromeda, Arcturus, and so forth. So I basically pulled together all of that information into a research article, which is available on my website, exopolitics.org, where you can actually go there and read about the 17 most significant extraterrestrial races interacting with humanity. And so they go to exopolitics.org. You can find that paper there, and that will kind of walk you through all of the different sources that I've been able to find that talk about these different races and what they're doing.
And also, you can you get your book there at your website as well?
That's right, yes. The book, people can order the book from the website. It'll direct you to Amazon.com or to the publisher, where you can order the book, which does go into some detail into what exactly exopolitics is all about, its history, and how the international system was set up to manage extraterrestrial life without the public and the general and the media and elected political representatives being informed about it.
That's an excellent book. I really enjoyed it. So I would suggest it to anybody. We also have it linked up on our website, including a link to your website. And I'll go through and find that, and I'd like to link that, explaining all the 17 different races on our website as well. So if anybody wants to look at it from there. It looks like about all the time we have this week. Thank you very much for being on the air with us, Michael. It's been great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Sala.
All right, and
we'll have you back on when we find out that Barack Obama's really a reptilian.
Okay. Pleased to do that.
Thank you, sir.
You have a good night.
Bye.
Well, what do you think?
You went with the reptilian thing. Why would you do that?
I wanted to bring it up earlier, and I stopped myself.
I just wonder where he gets all this information. I know our government will never release everything. They'll dedact it until it's barely readable anyway, and I don't know. He makes sense on some things. I mean, this whole Iraq war looking for a Stargate
SG-1.
Reading the book, the one thing, if you read the beginning of the book and it explains his methodology, because he's a political scientist, that's what he has his doctorate in. And what he does, to explain, because I think he knows most people are going to say, okay, whatever. Yeah. He goes through and he lists, where he's going to get his information from. And he starts off with, just like he would be, you'd be going to going to court and saying, okay, here's my evidence. And he lists all the different sources of this evidence. I think he starts off with whistleblowers, then abductees, people that have witnessed UFOs, and goes through and all the way down to at the bottom of the list, I believe, if I remember, are channelers. These people that believe that they're channeling. And he says that these people would not be something that in a court would be credible. Of course, the whistleblowers, they have such as what he was mentioning, source A. They're in the military. They're in a position to where they would have this information. He mentions somebody I've mentioned before, Philip Corso, which was, I believe, in the Army. There's a bunch of different ones, and I can't think of their names off the top of my head right now. But these people that Edgar Mitchell, astronaut, we've talked about on the show before, that came out and said, I know that we've been visited. Yeah. I've seen the paperwork, and all this stuff.
He said he was a part of the briefings and everything else.
Yeah, and so he says, these are the top witnesses. This is what, this is where my information is coming from. And what he's trying to do, Michael Sala, is, as a political scientist, he's going to look at, here's the evidence, here's politics. How do they mesh? Because if this is happening, politics has to be, the political apparatus has to be, interacting with it in some way. How are they doing that? Just like, you would study politics between us and Iraq, or us and, Canada. This is between us and the Pleiadians or the Greys or whatever. So
I like the fact that we just had a political show, and we discussed the Iraq War being because of alien transportation or transportation.
Well, in the reading that chapter, when I first read it and I said
to hell
Stargate,
with oil.
Why would you need oil when you got a Stargate?
Yeah.
I mean, but he mentioned.
Well, you got to have something to drive the trucks when you drive them through.
There's a picture in the book that shows what he's talking about, and it's kind of like
it's this, a Stargate, and
somebody's walking through it, and I'm thinking,
just like in the movie.
I could see, hey, two different ways of thinking of it. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, number one, could be a Stargate. It looks just like it. I see.
Well, remind me,
I see
if I ever get
MacGyver
over
walking
there,
through it.
I'm not going through any archways. That's it. I'm done.
I'd like to explain that afterwards. Okay, we went to Samaria or to Iraq. Lola walked through this archway. We lost her. We don't know where she is. Meanwhile, she's on another planet, going, I'm going to kill those guys.
You know me so well.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. This isn't good.
No.
And I can see you doing that, and you'd probably be cussing us. We'd probably hear it from here. So, just step back through the portal, Lola.
Yes. Well, all right. You're talking about portals. You've been watching Primeval?
Primeval? I have
on
not.
BBC. Same kind of thing, and they call it an anomaly. But you go forward or backward into time, and for the show's benefit, you have like saber-toothed tigers coming through and terrorizing downtown London.
Never a good thing.
But that's what these anomalies are, like wormholes, kind of.
Kind of like Quantum Leap.
Yeah,
Quantum Leap was a fun show.
That was a great show.
Yeah,
that was a great show.
All right,
well,
and
gentlemen,
that's about as political as we're going to get, too. So for those of you that are like, oh, my God, more politics, that's it.
We allowed our guests to utter political names, but that was it.
All right, Nikki, who we got next week?
Well, we have Gerald White. He's a contributing editor with moonhoax.us. We're going to talk about did we go to the moon? What do you think? Okay, real quick, show of hands or no, we're on radio, Nick.
Show of hands.
It's not going to work on radio, Nick. Don't do this. All right, show of voice.
Okay.
Lola,
yes, I think we did go to the moon.
I think we went to the moon.
I think I mean,
although wag the dog. Wag the dog.
There's a reason we have this person on. I was sitting. I don't know, what were we even preparing for? And Jordan's on YouTube, and you know how YouTube's one of those places you go and then
you get
2 hours later.
Yes.
Somehow he starts looking at
another video.
He starts looking at, you know what? We were preparing for the Edgar Mitchell thing. We were talking about astronauts. Jordan starts looking at videos on YouTube about the hoax, and he's dangling there. See? And I'm like, it's on another planet, or it's on the moon.
Yeah,
it's less gravity.
Like, well, how do you know that doesn't happen on the moon? It's like, I don't.
And so
you don't know.
Now I've tried to get Edgar Mitchell. He hasn't returned my calls. Him and Dan Aykroyd are conspiring against me.
I guess damn Dan Aykroyd.
Come on, Ray.
But Gerald White from Australia is going to be talking about the U.S. moon hoax, so go figure.
So 2 Australian accents in a row.
You can
awesome.
You can check out his website before. You can get yourself a little prepared, moonhoax.us.
And go to YouTube, keep looking at the videos, get lost in them. Email Jordan. Go to iTunes and comment about our show, too. I wanted to mention that. iTunes, comment about our show. Yes, Lola?
Does this guy believe we went to the moon, or does he believe it's a hoax?
We did not. He thinks it's a hoax. He does not think we.
All right,
we got a big conspiracy
theorists, come on.
Next week, call in
yes.
if you think either way. Because there's some people out there that I've talked to that say,
or call and defend him.
Yeah, and just ask him questions. We're going to be doing the same. And until next week,
that's going to be a good show.
All right, that's all we got for this week. Make sure you listen live next week. It's going to be good times. Till then, don't be afraid. Only believe.